The Galactic Empire's broadcast filled every screen on Earth. The images were clear, and the message was even clearer. Alien leaders, seated on their thrones, mocked Earth's defenses with cruel laughter. Their voices echoed through the airwaves, and their words were sharp, cutting into the very heart of humanity. "They think they can defend themselves," one alien commander sneered. "What a joke! Humans are nothing but a dying species. Their technology is ancient, their armies weak. We will crush them easily, like an insect beneath our boot." The broadcast was designed to humiliate. The Empire wanted to make sure every human on Earth knew just how insignificant they were in the grand scheme of the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, with its advanced technology and vast fleets, had looked at Earth for years and dismissed it as nothing more than a blip in the galaxy. They believed the human race was doomed, destined to fall behind as the rest of the galaxy moved forward. As the words left the screen, a chilling silence filled the room. On Earth, world leaders and military strategists watched in stunned disbelief. The mocking laughter of the Empire still rang in their ears, and for a moment, many wondered if the aliens were right. Could Earth really defend itself against a galaxy-spanning empire? Were they truly as weak as the broadcast claimed? But no one in the room spoke. They simply stared at the screen, processing the message. Some of them felt shame, others anger. But one thing was clear: humanity could not allow this to stand. Earth had been mocked, and their pride was at stake. But how could they fight against such overwhelming odds? The Empire had fleets of warships, fleets that could wipe out Earth without even breaking a sweat. What could they possibly do to defend themselves? The camera zoomed in on Earth's leaders. The tension was palpable. They knew something had to be done, but there was no obvious solution. The Empire was too powerful. The military had too few ships, and the technology they had was no match for the Empire's advanced weaponry. As if on cue, a communications officer hurried into the room, her face pale, her voice trembling. She handed a data pad to one of the generals. "Sir, there's something you need to see," she said urgently. The general glanced at the screen. The message was encrypted, the words blurry and jumbled. The officer quickly decrypted it, and what appeared on the screen left everyone in the room speechless. "One ship, no more. This is your only warning." The words were simple, but the message was anything but. Earth's leaders stared at the message, their eyes wide with disbelief. Who had sent it? The Galactic Empire. The message was almost as cryptic as it was ominous. It didn't say what would happen if Earth ignored the warning, but the tone was clear. Earth had been humiliated, but now someone, or something, was sending a message that suggested something far more dangerous was on the way. The room buzzed with frantic whispers. Was this a new threat, one even more dangerous than the Empire? Was it another alien race, or was it some kind of advanced AI, like the Empire's? There was no way of knowing, and the uncertainty only made the situation worse. One by one, the generals and strategists gathered around the screen. No one spoke, but everyone's mind raced. The words hung in the air like a weight. One ship, no more. What did it mean? Why just one ship? Was Earth supposed to send one ship to face a force far stronger than anything they could imagine? As the minutes ticked by, the silence grew. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. Everyone could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on them. The warships of the Galactic Empire were waiting just outside Earth's atmosphere, ready to strike. Now, Earth had been sent a warning. But it wasn't a warning from the Empire. It was something else. Something even more cryptic. The message was only a few words, yet it felt like an insurmountable challenge. The more the generals thought about it, the less sense it made. How could they send only one ship? And if it was a warning from an even more dangerous force, what could one ship possibly do? As the tension mounted, Earth's leaders knew they couldn't afford to ignore the message. They had to act quickly, but what action could they take that would make a difference? There was no time for hesitation. The clock was ticking, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. After what felt like hours of debate, one of the senior strategists stood up. His face was grim, but his voice was firm. He was the one who spoke the truth they all knew, but hadn't yet dared to say aloud. "It's simple," he said, looking around at the room full of military commanders. "We have to send one ship, but not just any ship. We send our most advanced vessel, the Horizon." The room fell silent once again. The Horizon was Earth's secret weapon, a warship unlike any other. Its technology was years ahead of anything Earth had developed, and it was designed to be a symbol of humanity's strength. But it was untested. The ship had never seen combat. The crew had never faced anything like the threat they were about to encounter. "We don't have a choice," the strategist continued. "The Horizon is our only chance. If we don't send it, we'll be destroyed before we even have a chance to prove ourselves." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. There was no other option. The Horizon was the best they had, and sending it could be the only way to show that Earth wasn't a weak, dying species. The generals nodded in agreement, their faces set in determination. They all knew the risks. The Horizon was Earth's most advanced ship, but even it couldn't stand up against the full force of the Galactic Empire. It was a ship meant for diplomacy, for defending the Earth, not for open war. But this wasn't just about war anymore. It was about survival. As the decision was made, the tension in the room began to shift. There was no turning back now. The Horizon was Earth's only hope, and it was time to send the message to the galaxy that humans weren't going to roll over and die. With a final look at the debriefing screen, the leader of Earth's military forces turned to his staff and ordered the activation of the Horizon. The ship would leave at once, sent to deliver a warning to the Galactic Empire, and to whatever force had sent that cryptic message. The world held its breath. The Horizon had begun its mission. One ship, no more. Commander Aaron Bonner stood at the command center of the Horizon, his eyes focused on the massive screens in front of him. He had led many missions before, but this one felt different. The weight of it pressed down on his chest. The future of Earth rested on his shoulders. Every move he made, every decision he took could mean the difference between survival and total annihilation. His heart raced, but his face remained calm. He was the leader, and his crew depended on him. Bonner was no stranger to danger. As a decorated hero, his name was known across the galaxy, and he had led countless successful missions for Earth's military. But this mission wasn't just another assignment. It was a last-ditch effort to prove humanity's worth and protect the planet from the Galactic Empire. There was no room for error, no second chances. If they failed, Earth would be destroyed, and humanity would cease to exist. The pressure was suffocating, but Bonner pushed it aside. His focus was unwavering. The Horizon was the pinnacle of human technological achievement. Earth's best scientists and engineers had spent years developing it in secret, knowing that one day it might be their only hope against an unstoppable enemy. The ship was equipped with cloaking devices, advanced AI that could predict enemy movements, and state-of-the-art robots designed for close combat. The crew was small but highly trained, and each member knew the risks they were facing. They were about to enter the heart of the Galactic Empire, where the odds of survival were almost non-existent. As the Horizon launched into space, Bonner couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the sheer power of the ship. It wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's symbol of hope. Every inch of it had been meticulously designed for this mission, from the reinforced hull to the sleek engines that would carry them deep into enemy territory. It was fast, stealthy, and deadly. It was their best chance of survival, and it had to work. The journey into space was uneventful at first, a quiet departure from the chaos on Earth. Bonner stood at the helm, overseeing the ship's operations. His officers worked silently, their eyes glued to their screens. The Horizon slipped past Earth's moon, and soon they were leaving the familiar stars of the Sol system behind, venturing into the unknown. But as the ship traveled deeper into enemy space, the mood began to shift. There was an unsettling stillness in the air, a sense that they were being watched, even though they were cloaked. The crew knew that the Galactic Empire's forces were vast and well prepared. Even with their advanced technology, the Horizon was still a single ship, and the Empire's reach was infinite. Bonner was just about to turn away from the command console when the ship shuddered. A red light flashed on the main screen, followed by an urgent warning. "Commander, the cloaking device is failing," came the voice of Lieutenant Riley, one of the ship's engineers. "How bad is it?" Bonner demanded, his heart pounding. "We're losing full invisibility," Riley responded, his voice tense. "It's a temporary glitch, but it's enough to expose us." The crew scrambled into action. The Horizon had been designed with advanced cloaking technology that could render it invisible to enemy sensors, but even the best technology had its limits. And now, with the ship partially visible, they were vulnerable. Bonner's mind raced as he considered their options. "Deploy defensive drones," Bonner ordered. "Get us out of here." Eye-controlled drones activated instantly. They were designed for fast, tactical combat, able to fight off enemies with precision and efficiency. The drones were launched into space, engaging the alien scouts that had detected the Horizon. The battle unfolded quickly. The drones zipped through space, firing at the alien ships that now surrounded them. Lasers flashed, and explosions filled the void of space. The crew held their breath as the drones tore through the alien fighters. But it wasn't enough. More scouts arrived, swarming the Horizon like bees attacking a nest. The ship rocked violently as the drones fought to keep the attackers at bay. The Horizon was still cloaked, partially, but every time it flickered, the ship's vulnerability became more apparent. Bonner gripped the edge of the command console, his mind calculating their next move. "Riley, can you fix the cloaking device?" Bonner shouted. "I'm trying, but it's going to take a few minutes," Riley answered, his fingers flying across the controls. "We're not going to make it if we don't do something fast. Brace for impact," Bonner shouted as the first alien missile hit the ship's outer shield. The Horizon shuddered violently, and the lights flickered. The ship was holding strong for now, but the force of the blow sent a ripple of fear through the crew. They were in enemy territory now, surrounded by the might of the Galactic Empire, and they were barely holding their ground. Just as the drones engaged the enemy, Bonner's mind raced with the realization that they weren't just dealing with scouts. These were part of a larger fleet, one that was quickly closing in on the Horizon. The crew fought hard, but the scouts were relentless. Bonner knew they couldn't keep this up for much longer. The Horizon was taking damage, and the ship's cloaking device was still malfunctioning. "We need to leave now," Bonner barked. "Jump to hyperspace." But just as he gave the order, a chilling thought crossed his mind. The Galactic Empire wasn't just sending a few scouts to take out one ship. They had positioned a full fleet near Earth's orbit, waiting to strike. The message from the mysterious source echoed in his mind. One ship, no more. It wasn't just a warning about the Horizon. It was a statement. Earth wasn't just facing the Galactic Empire anymore. Something far more dangerous was at play. Bonner stood frozen, staring out the viewports. The Empire's fleet was already on the move, positioned strategically to cut off Earth's last hope. They had been waiting for this moment, and now it was too late to run. There was no escaping the enemy. The only option was to fight. "Prepare for a final stand," Bonner shouted. "We're not retreating. We will make them regret ever mocking Earth." The crew nodded in agreement, knowing that there was no turning back now. The Horizon was Earth's last chance, and as the ship's weapons powered up, they all knew that this was it, the moment they either proved humanity's strength or watched everything they loved burn to ashes. The tension in the air was electric. Every breath Bonner took felt like it was his last. The battle was about to get much worse. But no matter the outcome, Bonner was determined to go down fighting. Earth would not go down without a fight. The Horizon drifted quietly in the vastness of space, surrounded by the silent, looming presence of the Galactic Empire's fleet. The tension in the air was suffocating, and Commander Aaron Bonner's grip tightened on the console in front of him. His ship, humanity's last hope, was vastly outnumbered. The enemy fleet loomed ahead like an unstoppable storm, and the crew of the Horizon knew that there was no turning back now. Bonner's heart raced. He could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on him, but his resolve remained firm. The Horizon had one objective now: destroy the Empire's flagship and send a message to the enemy that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. It was the only chance they had. The crew was prepared for this, but even they couldn't hide the fear that lingered in their hearts. "All hands, battle stations," Bonner barked, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the bridge. His command reverberated through the ship, and within moments, the crew was ready. The Horizon hummed with power as it charged into the heart of the enemy fleet, its weapon systems primed and ready. The ship's cloaking device was still malfunctioning, leaving them vulnerable, but Bonner knew there was no time to fix it. They would fight with everything they had. The first laser blast streaked through the blackness of space, a streak of bright blue cutting the void. It struck one of the Empire's smaller ships, sending a shockwave through the fleet. In an instant, the battle erupted into chaos. Lasers rained down from the Empire's ships, targeting the Horizon with deadly precision. But the Horizon was no ordinary ship. The crew of the Horizon had trained for this moment for years, and their response was swift. "Deploy drones," Bonner shouted. The Horizon's advanced AI systems activated the ship's drone bays, releasing dozens of combat drones into the fray. These drones were designed for one purpose: to destroy. They swarmed the enemy ships, attacking with pinpoint accuracy. The drones fired lasers and missiles, tearing through the Empire's forces. The space around the Horizon became a cacophony of explosions and fire, a deadly dance of light and destruction. But despite the strength of their defenses, the Horizon was quickly surrounded. The Empire's fleet was vast, and their ships were armed with superior firepower. The Horizon was taking hits, and the crew was working frantically to keep the ship intact. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as the battle unfolded before him, every movement a calculated risk. The lasers were constant, and the explosions were deafening. The Horizon rocked under the force of the attacks, but Bonner kept his focus. Then, as the battle raged on, something happened that would change everything. Sergeant Miller, one of Bonner's closest friends and most trusted soldiers, was struck by an enemy blast. The explosion tore through the hull of the Horizon, and in an instant, Miller was gone. Bonner's stomach turned as he saw the explosion on his screen, the flashing warning lights, and the ship's systems alerting him to the loss. He could hardly breathe. Miller had been with him from the beginning, a constant companion through every mission. And now he was gone. "Sergeant Miller is down," Bonner shouted, his voice hoarse with emotion. For a moment, the bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged somber looks, but Bonner didn't let the moment linger. Miller's death had shaken him to his core, but he knew what had to be done. "Keep fighting, everyone," Bonner barked, forcing the grief from his voice. "We do this for him, for all of us." The crew snapped to attention, their resolve hardening. The loss of one of their own only strengthened their will to win. They had come this far, and they would not let Miller's sacrifice be in vain. The Horizon charged back into the fray, its weapons blazing. Bonner fought to keep his focus, but his heart was heavy with the loss of his friend. As the battle continued, Bonner knew there was no time to mourn. The Horizon had to press on. They had one shot at this, and they couldn't afford to fail. The flagship, the heart of the Empire's fleet, was still in their sights. The only way to ensure the safety of Earth was to destroy that ship. Bonner's hand hovered over the ship's weapons console as he watched the Empire's fleet close in. The Horizon was taking heavy fire, and the ship was beginning to show signs of damage. The crew worked tirelessly, repairing systems and keeping the ship operational. But it was clear that the Horizon couldn't take much more. "We need to finish this now," Bonner said to his crew. Target the flagship. Give everything you've got." The crew responded without hesitation. The Horizon's weapon systems powered up, and the ship's laser cannons locked onto the Empire's flagship. Bonner's eyes narrowed as he watched the enemy ship, its massive form looming in front of them. This was it. They were about to make their final push. "All drones, all fighters, focus on the flagship," Bonner commanded. The remaining drones and fighter ships released from the Horizon, charging at the enemy flagship with reckless determination. The battle escalated as the Horizon sent wave after wave of firepower at the flagship, while the drones engaged the remaining enemy ships. Space around them erupted in a kaleidoscope of explosions. Sparks flew, and debris was sent flying into the cold vacuum of space. The Horizon's laser beams cut through the enemy ships, disabling them one by one. The flagship was the prize, and it was taking all the firepower the Horizon had. The beams struck the flagship's shields, sparking massive explosions, and the Horizon's drones were relentless, tearing through the remaining defenders. Bonner's eyes were locked on the flagship. Every moment felt like an eternity. The Horizon was nearing its breaking point, but it had to succeed. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. The crew continued to fight with everything they had, the emotional weight of Miller's death fueling their determination. The battle was intense, but as the last of the enemy ships fell, Bonner finally saw what he had been waiting for. The flagship's shields were weakening, and the Horizon had the perfect opportunity to deliver the final blow. With a deep breath, Bonner gave the order. "Fire everything we've got." The Horizon unleashed a barrage of laser fire, a concentrated blast that ripped through the flagship's remaining defenses. The explosion that followed was catastrophic. The flagship erupted in a massive fireball, debris flying in every direction, as the Empire's flagship was obliterated. The battle was over. The Horizon had won, but at a heavy cost. The crew had lost one of their own, and the ship had suffered extensive damage. But Earth had been sent a message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. And the Galactic Empire had learned the hard way that Earth was not a planet to be trifled with. As the Horizon drifted away from the wreckage of the flagship, Bonner looked out at the space around him. The stars seemed to burn brighter than ever before. They had won, but the war was far from over. The battle was just the beginning. The Horizon advanced steadily through the void of space, its hull trembling slightly from the damage it had already sustained. Commander Aaron Bonner stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the massive Galactic Empire flagship in front of him. This was it, the final moment. The flagship, the heart of the Empire's power, was within reach. The crew of the Horizon had fought tooth and nail to get this far, and now the fate of Earth lay in their hands. The ship's systems hummed with the energy of its final strike. Bonner took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves, but the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. The Horizon had already delivered so much destruction, but this final move, this final blow, would be the one that counted. It would determine if humanity had a future or if Earth would fall under the shadow of the Empire. "All crew, prepare for the final strike," Bonner ordered, his voice resolute despite the tension in his chest. His hand hovered over the command console, ready to unleash everything. The Horizon was armed with an EMP blast, one powerful enough to disable the entire fleet's AI systems. The Empire's ships relied heavily on their advanced artificial intelligence to maintain coordination and strategy, and taking that away would leave them vulnerable. As Bonner gave the order to charge the EMP, a sense of urgency gripped him. The enemy was not just about to fall, they were crumbling. The Horizon's firepower had already shattered their defenses, and now the ship was getting closer to the flagship. The crew could see the panic setting in among the Empire's leaders. The alien ships surrounding the flagship seemed disorganized, their weapons firing erratically as their command structure began to falter. The moment they had been waiting for had arrived. The Horizon was within striking distance, and Bonner's hand hovered over the button that would launch their final assault. The EMP blast would disable the Empire's fleet, leaving them exposed and vulnerable to the Horizon's remaining weapons. But just as Bonner prepared to strike, something unexpected happened. The ship's sensors flared with alarm as an ominous, low hum echoed through the bridge. The lights flickered, and the crew exchanged anxious glances. "What's happening?" Bonner demanded. A technician scrambled to check the readings. "Sir, it's the Empire's superlisser," the technician reported. "It's charging up. They're aiming directly at Earth." Bonner's blood ran cold. The horizon was almost there. But if the Empire's superlisser fired, Earth would be destroyed in an instant. He had to act now. There was no more time to hesitate. "Give me a targeting solution," Bonner barked, his mind racing. The crew worked frantically to lock onto the superlisser's core, but the pressure was overwhelming. They needed to disable the superlisser before it fired, or Earth would be lost. The time left was slipping away. As Bonner watched the Empire's flagship begin to crumble under the force of the Horizon's attack, his mind was filled with memories. The faces of his fallen comrades flashed in his mind. Sergeant Miller, the crew members who had fought beside him. Their sacrifices weighed heavily on him, and his heart ached with the loss. But he pushed the grief aside. This was what they had fought for. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. They had to win. They couldn't let the enemy get the upper hand now. The crew continued to pound the flagship with everything they had. The Empire's defenses were falling apart, and their ships were disintegrating one by one. The enemy was in chaos, their once mighty war machine now little more than a shell of its former self. But even in their panic, they still had one last weapon, a weapon powerful enough to erase everything the humans had fought for. Bonner's eyes locked onto the superlisser, its massive barrel aimed directly at Earth. It was the Empire's last-ditch effort to destroy humanity. If the Horizon couldn't stop it, Earth would be nothing more than a smoldering, lifeless rock. "Lock onto the superlisser core," Bonner ordered. His voice was steady, but inside, his heart was pounding. His crew was working at lightning speed, trying to find a way to disable the superlisser before it was too late. But the weapon was powerful, and the Horizon was running out of time. The superlisser's charge intensified, and Bonner could feel the pulse of energy building in his bones. This was the moment. Everything they had fought for had come down to this. The Horizon's EMP was their only hope to disable the weapon. But if they missed, Earth would burn. "EMP ready, sir," shouted the technician, his voice tense with urgency. Bonner's finger hovered over the button. "On my mark," he said, his eyes never leaving the superlisser. The Horizon continued its attack, firing everything it had at the Empire's flagship. The alien ships were falling apart, their technology no match for the relentless assault. But the superlaser was still charging, and it seemed to be building power faster than they could disable it. Bonner's mind raced. They had to act now. "Fire!" Bonner shouted, his voice breaking through the tension on the bridge. The EMP blast shot out from the horizon, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to slow down. The pulse of energy shot across the battlefield, hitting the Empire's fleet with a shockwave of devastating force. The AI systems in the enemy ships went haywire. Lights flickered, and control systems failed. The Empire's coordination collapsed in an instant. Bonner watched, his breath held, as the superliser's charge began to waver. The massive weapon sputtered, and for a moment, it seemed as if it would fire anyway. But then, with a violent flash, the weapon shut down, the charge dispersed, and the superlaser fell silent. The threat to Earth had been neutralized. But the horizon wasn't finished yet. Bonner immediately gave the order to launch the final strike. The Horizon's weapons systems locked onto the flagship's core, and with one final devastating barrage, the Empire's flagship was destroyed. As the explosion rocked the battlefield, Bonner exhaled in relief. Earth had been saved. The battle had been won, but the cost had been high. The Horizon had lost so much, and the crew had paid a steep price. But in that moment, as the debris of the Empire's fleet scattered across the stars, Bonner couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Humanity had proven its strength. They had sent a message to the Empire. and to the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated. The war was far from over, but this victory would go down in history. The Empire had been shocked, and Earth had survived. The horizon was drifting in the dark vacuum of space, its cloaking technology flickering in and out of visibility as it dodged the devastating superlaser. Each moment, each decision, felt heavier than the last. Commander Bonner stood at the helm, his grip tight on the controls as his heart raced. The massive superlaser from the Empire's flagship, which had already charged up multiple times, was now locked in on the horizon. The ship's powerful energy beams threatened to tear them apart, but Bonner had no choice but to fight back. With every passing second, the tension grew thicker. The horizon's cloaking system was their only hope, and Bonner knew it couldn't hold forever. The superlaser charged again, glowing with an ominous, deadly light. The horizon phased in and out of visibility, expertly evading the Empire's attacks. The ship darted through space, a ghost in the night, as the Horizon's crew worked quickly to track the exact position of the enemy flagship. "Brace for impact," Bonner shouted as another blast from the superlaser narrowly missed. The Horizon veered sharply to the side, barely escaping the powerful beam. But the battle was far from over. With the Empire's flagship still looming ahead, Bonner knew the final confrontation was at hand. The Horizon was nearing the flagship now. The time for hiding was over. Bonner's orders rang out clear and firm. "Prepare for boarding. We're going in." The final assault was not going to be won in space alone. The crew had one more chance to strike at the heart of the Empire, their flagship's core. The team suited up, readying themselves for the most dangerous mission they had ever faced. The enemy had no idea the Horizon was coming, and Bonner intended to keep it that way for as long as possible. They would infiltrate the flagship, disable its core, and end the Empire's reign once and for all. With a deafening roar, the Horizon phased back into full visibility as it rammed through the defenses of the flagship. The impact sent shockwaves through both ships. Sparks flew from the Horizon's hull, but the crew didn't flinch. They had trained for this. They had fought for this. This was their moment to bring an end to the Empire's terror. Inside the flagship, chaos erupted. The crew of the Horizon boarded swiftly, weapons ready. The air was thick with tension as they cut through the enemy's defenses. Alien soldiers rushed to stop them, but the crew moved with precision, a well-oiled machine of human determination and strength. Bonner led the charge, his mind focused on one thing: the core. The corridors were dimly lit, the sound of battle echoing in the halls. The crew fought their way through the ship, taking down any alien who stood in their path. Bonner's mind raced. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the Empire. The fate of Earth rested on their shoulders, and he wasn't about to let it slip away now. The final battle was about to unfold in the heart of the Empire's most powerful vessel. Bonner and his team reached the core chamber, but the enemy was already waiting. At the far side of the room stood the Empire's Supreme Commander, a towering figure clad in black armor. His eyes burned with fury, but Bonner could see the fear beneath the rage. The Supreme Commander knew what was coming. "You think you can destroy the Empire?" The Supreme Commander sneered. "You're nothing. You're weak. Your kind will be wiped from the galaxy." Bonner's hand tightened on the hilt of his weapon as he stepped forward. He wasn't afraid. "We're not weak. We're human," Bonner said, his voice steady. "And we're willing to fight for our survival." The Supreme Commander laughed, but it was a hollow sound. He raised his weapon, the tension between them palpable. "Then let us see if you can survive this." The two charged at each other, their weapons clashing with a sharp metallic sound. The battle raged on in the core chamber as Bonner and the Supreme Commander fought fiercely. Every move was a deadly dance, each one filled with the knowledge that only one would walk away from this. The fate of billions rested on this moment. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest, but his focus remained unshaken. He could feel the power of the Horizon reverberating through his body as he fought. This was the culmination of everything they had sacrificed, everything they had endured. They couldn't lose now. For Earth. For their people. The clash between Bonner and the Supreme Commander was fierce, but Bonner was driven by a singular purpose. Every strike he made was fueled by the memory of his fallen comrades, by the people he had promised to protect. The Supreme Commander was a formidable opponent, but Bonner's resolve was unbreakable. The final blow came swiftly. Bonner, with a surge of adrenaline, knocked the Supreme Commander's weapon from his hand and delivered a devastating strike that sent the enemy leader sprawling to the floor. The commander's body hit the ground with a heavy thud, and the room fell into a tense silence. Bonner stood over the defeated Supreme Commander, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. The Empire's leader was broken, and so was the last hope of their war machine. Bonner didn't need to say anything. The battle was over. The Horizon had done its job. Earth had won. But Bonner knew that there was no real victory without sacrifice. His team had fought tooth and nail to get here, and he knew they had paid a price for their victory. The loss of Sergeant Miller, the near-death experiences, the pain of every moment, it had all led to this. And now, with the final piece of the puzzle in place, the battle was nearing its conclusion. But there was one last decision to make. Bonner stood at the Corps' control panel, looking out at the swirling chaos of the battlefield through the viewport. The Horizon had dealt its final blow to the Empire's fleet, but now it was time for the ultimate sacrifice. The Empire's flagship was done for, and so was the Horizon. Bonner made his decision. He would send the Horizon straight into the heart of the flagship, taking it down once and for all. The crew would make sure the message was clear. The Empire was finished. Humanity had stood up for itself. All hands, prepare for the final strike, Bonner said, his voice a mix of sadness and determination. His crew moved quickly, understanding the weight of his words. This was the end. The Horizon would be their legacy. With a final push, the Horizon hurtled into the core of the flagship, slamming into the heart of the enemy ship with devastating force. The explosion was cataclysmic. The Horizon's sacrifice marked the end of the battle, and as the debris of the Empire's flagship and the Horizon scattered across the stars, Bonner's heart swelled with a mix of grief and pride. Humanity had triumphed. The Empire had been defeated. And Earth, against all odds, had survived. The battle had been won, but the price of victory was steep. As the remnants of the Galactic Empire's fleet drifted into nothingness, the vast emptiness of space bore witness to humanity's triumph. Earth had proven itself, not just a small, insignificant planet, but a powerful force capable of turning the tide against the most formidable empire the galaxy had ever known. The Empire had underestimated them, mocked them for centuries. But now the tables had turned. The surviving alien forces retreated, scattering across the stars, fearful of the wrath they had awakened. They were no longer the predators, and humanity had shown them that. The destruction of the Empire's flagship was a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. Earth was no longer a place to be taken lightly. They had fought back with every ounce of strength, with every shred of determination. The death of Commander Aaron Bonner, the man who had led them to victory, weighed heavily on the hearts of those who had served under him. But his sacrifice had ensured that humanity's future would be secure. His crew mourned his loss, but they also knew that his actions had saved Earth from an unimaginable fate. The war was over, but the echoes of it would linger forever in their hearts. The war had been brutal, but Earth's victory was undeniable. The alien forces had never seen such a force of nature before, a planet that would no longer cower in fear, but would rise to meet every challenge head-on. Earth was now the underdog no more. They had shown the galaxy that they would fight for their survival, and they would never back down. The Empire was left in ruins, scattered and broken, and its leaders had no choice but to retreat. The message was loud and clear: mess with Earth, and you would face the full fury of the human race. As the dust settled, Earth's leaders gathered, their voices unified in purpose. It was time to send a message to the galaxy, a message that would reverberate throughout the stars for centuries to come. The surviving members of Bonner's crew stood with their leaders, their faces somber but resolute. They had been a part of something extraordinary, something that would define the future of humanity for generations. Earth had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. And now, the rest of the galaxy would know it too. The leader of Earth, standing before a global audience, spoke with authority. Today, we stand as one. Today, we show the galaxy that we are no longer prey. We are humanity, and we fight back. The crowd erupted in applause, the words echoing across the planet. The victory was not just military, but symbolic. Earth had earned its place in the cosmos, and no one would forget it. The streets of Earth were filled with celebrations, but even in the midst of joy, there was a sense of loss. The faces of Bonner's crew were filled with grief, but there was also a sense of pride. They had lost friends, comrades, but they had also gained something much more significant. They had earned the respect of the galaxy. They had earned the right to stand tall in the face of any enemy, and that was something that no one could ever take away from them. The final scene unfolded as Earth's skyline was illuminated by the glowing lights of countless spaceships flying in perfect formation. The camera panned up, showing the vastness of the stars above, a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Humanity had proven itself in the most unlikely of circumstances, and now, with the remnants of the Empire scattered across the stars, there was nothing holding them back. Earth had become a symbol of strength, unity, and hope. As the camera zoomed in on the faces of Bonner's crew, they looked towards the horizon. The war was over, but the journey had just begun. There were still mysteries to uncover, new frontiers to explore, and battles to fight. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was ready to claim its place among the stars. The horizon had been their ship, their symbol of defiance, but now, the stars were theirs. The future was unknown, but humanity was no longer afraid to face it. The screen faded to black, but the message was clear. The victory was only the beginning. The future of humanity was bright, and there would be more to come. The galaxy would know the strength of Earth. The horizon had flown into the heart of the Empire, and it had brought with it the dawn of a new era. Humanity was no longer just a small, isolated species. They were now players on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same. As the final credits rolled, the lingering sound of a distant spaceship's engines echoed, a reminder that the story of humanity was far from over. The horizon may have been lost, but the spirit of Bonner and his crew lived on, and with it, the determination to fight for the survival of Earth. The galaxy had been mourned. The story of humanity had only just begun.